Welcome to Lift Where You Stand, a podcast for homeschool moms learning to build real confidence, not from having it all together, but a God confidence that meets you right where you are. I'm your host, Marcy Lovelace, and if your homeschool feels a little messy, loud, or uncertain today, you are in the right place. You don't need a different life to feel more confident. You just need a different way to stand in the one you already have. I've been there. I see you. And I'm here to lift you where you stand. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing today? It's August. Can we believe it's August? I can't. We're gearing up for another school year. Are you excited? Are you waiting to start until after Labor Day? What are a lot of your goals, your dreams? What are you excited about? How are your kids feeling? Like all of these emotions, I'm sure, are at the height of everything that you are doing right now. We're gearing up, we're getting ready. It's an exciting time of year, but it's also a time that can be hard for a lot of homeschoolers because as we were young, there was this anticipation and the excitement of something new and going back to school and seeing your friends again. And I think as homeschooling moms, we almost have this little bit of a FOMO sometimes when we see everyone else's kids going back to school, having that excitement. So I'm just checking in on you, just seeing how you're doing, just making sure that you know that you're not alone. Remember why you're doing this, and let's just dive into our topic today. Um, Today, I want to talk about a few read alouds that really changed our homeschool. And these are read alouds that we still talk about today. And I asked each one of our boys which books really influenced them throughout the last 12 years as we have homeschooled. And so I'm going to talk about each one of those books. But first, I want to start by saying the greatest curriculum, the greatest curriculum in our homeschool hasn't been a workbook. It has been the books that we've experienced together. When I look back over 12 years of homeschooling, I honestly don't remember all of the lessons and the sentences we diagrammed. I do remember almost every read aloud. When I look at my bookshelf and I pull out my books and I think, we read this one, we've read this one, we've read this one. I remember the ones where we couldn't stop laughing. I remember the ones where I had one son hiding underneath a blanket so that no one could see the tears that were coming down. I remember the gasps. I remember the times that my children would beg for one more chapter because they didn't want it to end. And I remember so much about the conversations that we would have throughout these book discussions and these book read alouds that we would have. So these books, they've almost become a part of our family. So I want to take a minute and have you go down memory lane for a second. Can you remember a book from your childhood that you still think about today? Not because you were tested on it but there was a quiz or whatever. You had to give a book report, but it almost became a part of who you are and it's still with you. And this is so fascinating to me. We forget thousands of lessons and thousands of facts, but somehow stories stay with us. And there's a reason why Jesus taught in parables and through stories. That you think about the Good Samaritan and the prodigal son and the lost sheep. Why? As I have been thinking and pondering about this, stories almost have a way of bypassing our defensive wall that we each create unconsciously, lots of times, sometimes consciously, but lots of times we create this defense unconsciously. And stories naturally sneak past that and reach directly into our hearts. Okay, when we tell a child a fact, we are often speaking to their mind. But when we tell them a story, we activate everyone's imagination, their emotions, and their heart. So more areas of their brain lights up. Think about the last time that you gave a lecture to your child. Okay, how did it go? Did they welcome it with open arms or did they resist it? If your kids are like mine, they probably resist it more than they welcomed it. You can tell your kid all day long, you need to be more courageous. You need to be kinder. You need to not judge people. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this, right? The list goes on and on and on. But even if these statements seem to be true, and your child does need to be kinder, their heart will almost always put up some kind of a wall when they feel like they're being corrected. Our human brains don't like to be corrected. But a story, when you use it correctly, has the power to slip past that wall without making it feel like you're trying to correct your child. Okay, so here's an example of how stories can teach characteristics, inspire your child's heart, and go directly to the heart. If you say to your child, you shouldn't judge people based on what they look like. Okay. A child may, you can, I'm sure, imagine this. I'm sure each one of us have experienced it. A child may roll their eyes and say, or even think, I know, mom, I know, I know. But just because they say, I know, it doesn't really translate into their life. But when you read a book, say like Sign of the Beaver, where you walk along the side of a boy who has to learn from someone who is very different from himself. Okay, now the lesson is not coming from you as the mom, but it's coming from the experience in the story. The hope is that your child begins to apply the things that they are learning and the feelings that they have in these stories into their own life. The heart opens because as they're listening to the story, they discover something. It's not you telling them something, but your child discovers something on their own rather than being told something. And this is exactly why Jesus taught in parables. When Jesus wanted to teach about forgiveness, he didn't just say, you should forgive people because forgiveness is important, which that's a correct statement, right? Forgiveness is essential. However, Jesus taught this principle through the story of the prodigal son. And the powerful thing with stories is that it, depending on where you are on your journey, will depend on what you learn from that story. Are you the son who ran away? Are you the older brother who refuses to forgive? Or do you understand the love of the father that he has for his son? There's so many things that you can pull from the story, and depending on where you are in your life journey, depends on the lesson that you internalize. Okay, so there's lots of room for self-discovery in a story. So think of the countless number of people who have been affected by the story of the prodigal son. Endless, right? So many people and so many more to come. So I asked my boys the other day what books were some of their favorites from our read alouds over the years. And for the sake of time, I have chosen four for this podcast, but they are each unanimously loved and remembered by my boys. So the first one is The Summer of the Monkeys. Oh man, we laughed so much throughout this book. Afterwards, we actually gave the book to our grandpa after, and we caught him reading the book and just laughing throughout the book. It is so funny, but such a fantastic book. There are moments when we couldn't even get through a page because everyone was giggling so hard. And every single one of my boys related back to this book. So these are the kinds of memories that just become part of your family story. So underneath all of the humor in this book is a beautiful story of a boy growing up. His name is Jay Barry, and he's the main character. And in the beginning, he is a boy that focuses on getting what he wants. He had goals and he knew what he wanted, but through a lot of hard work throughout the book and perseverance and unexpected sacrifice, his heart changed from the beginning to the end. He learned that the greatest rewards aren't always the ones that we dream about, but they're the ones that come from loving and serving others. Okay, such a fantastic book. As a family, we had so many great discussions about determination and generosity and putting others first. And some books teach us because they make us think, but others teach us because they make us feel. And Summer the Monkeys did both of that for us. That is the power of a story. My boys probably don't remember the entire plot and all the details in the book, but they do remember how they felt years later after reading it. All right, book number 2 is The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. This story is perfect for teaching children about doing hard things and not giving up, okay, regardless of the life circumstances that are given to you. As you enter into the world of the main character, William Kamkwamba is his name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but you will have loads of opportunities to have conversations with your children. You will experience a little bit of his life story between from his hunger and frustration and curiosity and determination. This wasn't just a story about building a windmill. It's a story about hope and resilience and continuing to fight and to learn and to grow and the incredible power of what an education can do for you. My children watched a young boy refuse to let poverty, a famine, or a lack of an opportunity for education to determine his future. And instead of giving up, he was curious about the world around him. He kept learning. And even when it wasn't in school, he found ways to continue to learn. He kept asking questions and used the knowledge that he had to solve a problem that changed the lives of his entire family and his entire community. It sparked so many incredible conversations in our home about gratitude, about persevering, and how God can use just ordinary people who are willing to keep trying and keep asking questions and not giving up. It reminded us that learning isn't about getting good grades. It's about using the gifts God has given us to bless others. That's what I love about living books. They just don't fill our minds or our children's minds with information, but they inspire a sense of purpose. And over time, book by book, as you read aloud these great books, each story begins to uncover what is instilled in each of us. It's just amazing to me. I just love it so much. It's so powerful. All right, book number 3 is A Night Divided. I think the author, it's Jennifer Nilsson. But this book we listened to on a road trip. So I didn't even read it aloud. An audiobook is a fantastic read aloud for you. And on this road trip, we did not want to stop listening to it. We would come up to the stop that we needed to make, and we were like, oh, we just want to listen to a little bit more. And we're like, no, we need to go do this. And we would make our stop on our road trip. And then as soon as we were done, we would get back into our motorhome and all gather around the front of the motorhome waiting for the story to start again. And here's why I love this book so much. When you read about history in a textbook, that has a way of making history feel really distant. But when you read it in a story like this one, this is a historical fiction story about the Berlin Wall. And this story makes history come alive. And A Night Divided did this so well. As we followed the main character's journey through so much fear and separation from family, courage and hope. The Berlin Wall, it stopped being just some historical event and it became a very real reminder of what people are willing to endure for freedom and for your family. We found ourselves talking about when what courage really looks like, which is not the absence of fear, but choosing to do what's right even when you're terrified. And Gerda in this book is a perfect example of that. We talked about so much about gratitude for the freedoms that we often take for granted. And this book reminds us that, again, just like the boy who harnessed the wind, that ordinary people can just show extraordinary courage during hard times. Okay, such a powerful story. Okay, book number 4. This is one that we've read recently, and it's a series, but this one I'm just talking about the first book, and it's in the Cragbridge Hall series called The Inventor's Secret. Okay, this book immediately captured the imagination of my kids because it invited them into a world where learning was exciting. Okay, where technology and history came alive inside of the book. There were so many things in history that really captured our attention and spiked our interest that we dug into these facts and history a little bit more because of the story. Okay. And being curious in this book was celebrated. Okay, so the story follows a brother and a sister, and as they enter what's called Cragbridge Hall, which is a school that's in the future, and it's filled with these incredible inventions that makes learning really come alive. So my boys loved this book, but even more important were the discussions that we had with it because of the inventions that were created to be able to see the history in real time and the ability to interact with history. We had lots of really good conversation about what does it mean to be wise with technology and what does it mean, can technology be used for good? And knowing that it can be used for bad, and how do we navigate those waters? Okay. And also, we had a lot of really great discussions about wisdom and intelligence. Okay, someone can be intelligent and not wise, right? So lots of really great conversations with this book. Read alouds, they're not supposed to just entertain. That isn't the goal. But although each one of these books that I have mentioned, they are very entertaining and my boys absolutely loved them. But the goal is to awaken an emotion in your child, to make them curious and to imagine and to be a part of a greater conversation that gets them thinking. Your discussions that you have in your home is a gateway to helping your kids realize that their ideas and their thoughts and beliefs, they matter. Every story that you read in your home is a building block that is added to you to who your child can become. Okay? They get to experience life through the lives of others. And when you add their personal experiences, it makes it even more powerful. Okay? If you're at all feeling overwhelmed with homeschooling, don't underestimate the power of simply sitting on your couch, cuddling up in blankets, and reading a book out loud to your kids. In my early homeschool years, I was told that if I'm reading out loud to my children, that they're already getting a great education. I didn't believe it. I was skeptical and stuck to my curriculum. How, in my mind, I did not understand how can a book have that much power. I hadn't experienced it. But years later, I have. And I'm here to tell you that stories have that kind of power. Stories are what catches our attention. Stories make us feel emotion, which then helps us to remember. Years from now, your children probably won't remember every worksheet they completed, but they're going to remember the stories or the emotions they felt when you told them the stories. They'll remember the laughing. They'll remember the crying over the character who felt real. They'll remember sitting beside you or playing Legos while you're sitting in the living room as you're reading out loud to them. They'll remember sitting beside you while your voice broke and as you're trying to hold it together because something touched you and you're just trying not to cry in front of your children, which isn't a bad thing. This is all good things. They're going to remember the accents that you have and all the funny ones and the ones that you mess up on. They're going to remember that. Okay? Never underestimate the power of a read aloud. It may be the most important lesson you teach all year long. Read alouds aren't another subject in your home. Let it be the very center. When we started to have books at the center of our homeschool, I started to feel again. I started to feel inspired and uplifted. I started to be excited about learning. And the same will happen with you too. Read, read, read to your children as often as you can. You will be inspired and your children will too. Just keep sticking at it. All right. That's all I have for you this week. I hope you guys have a fabulous week. Go be with your kids. Remember, life is good, and we will see you next week. See ya. If something in this podcast resonated with you, I would absolutely love it if you could like and subscribe and share with other moms that could use it. If you want to go deeper and find out how you get more support from me, I want to personally invite you to a one-on-one homeschool coaching and mentoring call with me. To sign up, check out the link in the show notes. What's the worst that could happen? We meet, we laugh, and connect. And you may find out what I have to offer doesn't match what you're looking for. But what is the best that could happen? This could be a turning point for your homeschool, and I'm ready to help you get there.